live on Morsephone. No.
This was Renita Williams on Facebook Live just moments before her Facebook friends witnessed her life being taken.
A bullet hole here in the trunk, another at the top of the trunk, one through the window, and then one on this other side next to the gas tank. The shooting happened after two women, one reportedly the victim, Asia Poole, got into a fist fight. And then right after that fist fight was broken up, that's when we heard the shots fired. Witnesses described what happened here last night as something like World War III.
No! Hey, call police!
Imagine pressing Go Life and unknowingly broadcasting your own brutal murder to the world. Chilling, right? Facebook Live has become a part of everyday life, a way for people to share their moments, big or small, with their followers. But what happens when those followers are forced to witness unimaginable horror? The cases you're about to hear are not for the faint of heart. These stories are both shocking and deeply disturbing, so prepare yourself for what's to come. Renita Williams.
Man accused of killing his ex-girlfriend on Facebook Live changes his plea to guilty today.
Renita Williams, a 27-year-old mom of three and a talented home decorator from Louisiana, was in a rocky relationship with 36-year-old Jonathan Robinson. Things got messy when Renita discovered Jonathan was also involved with another woman named Sharika. She ended things with him and started seeing someone new, but Jonathan didn't take it well. Friends said he became jealous and even tracked her down to a Shreveport club in February 2017, where he allegedly assaulted her. Jonathan already had a history of violence, with multiple charges for assault and domestic abuse. Still, Renita chose not to press charges, not wanting to add to his criminal record. By March 2018, tensions exploded when Renita and Sharika began arguing online about Jonathan. Sharika insisted he had moved on, while Renita claimed he was still trying to get back with her. But what started as a heated online spat between the women quickly spiraled out of control when Jonathan inserted himself into the drama and took things to a dangerous and deadly level. On the morning of April 12, 2018, around 11 a.m., Renita Williams was at home with her brother and mom, Anita, when Jonathan Robinson showed up unexpectedly. He pounded on the door and then kicked it in, armed with a gun. He held them all at gunpoint, and when Anita said she was going to call the police, Jonathan fired a shot that barely missed her. Anita managed to escape and ran to a neighbor's house to call 911. Meanwhile, Jonathan forced Renita to go on Facebook Live to publicly apologize to Sharika for the things she had said about her. Terrified, Renita reluctantly went along with it, hoping this would calm him down and he would leave.
Yes, I know I was wrong. I ain't have no business going off like that,
But sadly, that didn't happen. In the chilling live video, you can hear Jonathan in the background yelling, berating, and threatening her, making the situation even more horrifying.
This no. I apologize for going live on Rika. I ain't had no business doing all this. My page been blocked, so that's why I'm going live.
Everybody wants to be famous. I'm gonna make you famous.
Yes.
What?
I am sorry, y'all. Yes.
Things would get even more terrifying when Jonathan fired again, hitting her in the knee. He continued to demand she apologize, but no matter how much she complied, it didn't seem to calm his rage. In the chaos, Renita's brother managed to escape unharmed, but tragically Jonathan fired 4 more times at Renita. As people watched in horror, and if that wasn't enough, Jonathan then had a 90-minute standoff with the police, firing multiple times and injuring 2 officers. When he ran out of bullets, he called Sharika, who talked him into surrendering. He finally put the gun down and walked out, ending the standoff. Renita and the injured officers were rushed to the hospital, but sadly, she didn't survive.
A tragedy unfolded in Shreveport's Caddo Heights neighborhood when police say an alleged gunman, 36-year-old Jonathan Robinson, fatally shot a woman reportedly being held against her will inside a house on Natalie Street. Authorities say Robinson allegedly shot a Shreveport police officer in the wrist as well before being taken into custody.
It was more than 10. It was 10 at first. They started shooting back at each other. It was ongoing, so it was about anywhere from 20 to 30 shots.
After his arrest, Jonathan was taken to the Shreveport City Jail, where he caused even more trouble by damaging a water pipe and flooding his cell. Authorities moved him to the Caddo Correctional Center. During his interrogation, Jonathan tried to justify his actions by saying he was frustrated with how people treated Sharika. He claimed that the constant pressure from others, knowing she struggled with mental health and thoughts of self-harm, pushed him over the edge.
When you just say your wife you know your wife not strong. And you know people mess with your wife because they know she's not mentally stable. But still, there ain't no excuse for what I did, but I done hurt her so much, and I just got tired of people hurting her. She going through mental stages, and it's like, and everybody laughing at her. And I got tired of it.
He admitted he had begged Sharika to stop getting involved in drama and hurting herself, but claimed when she didn't listen, he decided to step in, telling her, "I'll handle it for you."
That ain't no excuse for what I did. I hate it, but man, I'm supposed to protect her. Protect her, my job, protect her.
What's wild is how he painted himself as the victim in all this, claiming he was just trying to protect his wife from others, even though his actions caused all the chaos in the first place. Jonathan said he regretted what he did. He wanted to plead guilty to Renita's murder, but couldn't at first because prosecutors were pushing for capital punishment. Eventually, after discussions with Renita's family, they decided to spare his life. Jonathan pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison without parole, plus 100 additional years for opening fire at police officers.
This has been the longest months of my life.
37-year-old Jonathan Robinson is Williams' ex-boyfriend. He initially entered a plea of not guilty to first-degree murder and several counts of attempted first-degree murder of police officers. According to the district attorney, 2 of them even came close to dying.
The officer who actually was shot and the first officer who drove up to the scene of the crime, who thankfully she stopped short, because if she had driven all the way up to the house, she would have been killed.
The district attorney tells NBC6 News before talking with Renita's mother, he did seek the death penalty.
But based on my conversations with her, I was willing to back off if he pled.
So at the end of the day, the decision that was made was my decision. We feel a lot better. It hurts me. It hurts me so bad. By killing Jonathan, it's not going to bring Renita back. None whatsoever, so.
Renita, lovingly known as Nunu, was laid to rest shortly after in an emotional ceremony attended by hundreds. Her legacy of kindness and love was clear from the outpouring of support. One attendee shared a powerful message, saying her tragic death is a reminder that domestic violence should never be tolerated in any form. But as devastating as Renita's story is, this next woman faced a similarly tragic fate while hanging out with her friends on Christmas Eve. Tynesha Hammonds.
She was pronounced here behind us here at 8:50.
Tynesha Hammonds was a 20-year-old mother from Macon, Georgia. On December 23, 2018, she left her baby boy Amari with her mother to enjoy a night out with some friends. Sadly, she never came home. Tynesha was streaming live on Facebook as she and her friends cruised in their car. They appeared to be having fun, chatting and laughing as the music played in the background. But all of a sudden, things took a terrifying turn as the chilling sounds of gunfire filled the air. The car then crashed and Tynesha went silent. Her phone fell on the floor but continued to record live, which now had thousands of views. Her friends could be heard panicking as they called her name and tried to get her help. Sadly, by the time paramedics arrived, Tynesha was dead. She had been hit by a bullet that went straight to her head.
I heard gunshots, and then when I went out there, they had everything taped off when I went out there.
Joey Stevens says he's got 2 kids of his own, and what happened Sunday night has him worried and making changes to the way he watches his children.
Keep my kids in the house, man. And it's sad, you know what I'm saying? Because they want to come out and play, but it's just too dangerous right now these days. I don't understand it.
And neither does Tanisha's family, who are now begging for anyone with information to come forward.
Tynesha's death devastated her family, who couldn't understand why such a terrible thing happened to her. What made it even harder was knowing her final moments were captured on video for the world to see. Facebook eventually removed the live stream, but not before someone saved it and posted it on flyheight.com, a site infamous for shocking user-uploaded videos. Against the family's wishes, the heartbreaking footage stayed on the site for months, racking racking up over 200,000 views. Tynesha's cousin-in-law, Sarah McMiller, emailed the site repeatedly, asking them to take it down. While it was eventually removed by then, the video had already spread to other platforms, making it impossible to erase completely. The family now fears that one day, Tynesha's son might stumble upon the footage of his mother's tragic final moments.
Amari's not gonna be a baby forever. Her son's gonna have a social media one day. I would hate for him to come across that video.
There haven't been any arrests in Tynesha's case, but police believe her death was tied to a tragic chain of events involving her cousin, Jamin Jackson. Back in October of that year, Jamin, who was linked to a gang, got into a fight with a rival gang at Northeast High School. That fight ended with the death of 16-year-old Kendrick Davis. Jamin and 4 other teens were arrested for their involvement. Fast forward to the night when Tynesha was gunned down. Jamin's twin brother, Jashawn, was with her and their friends when the gunfire started. Police suspect the attackers were targeting Jashawn, but Tynesha was caught in the crossfire, an innocent victim of senseless violence. This story gets even more heartbreaking when you learn this wasn't the family's first experience with a violent tragedy. Back in 2014, Tynesha's aunt, Bridget Moore, who was also Jamin and Jashawn's mom, was murdered by her abusive ex-husband, Jacinto Flowers. Bridget had been trying to escape their toxic marriage, but Jacinto wouldn't let her go. He stalked and harassed her for days, and at one point was even caught on camera physically attacking her. Then, on February 22, 2014, as Bridget sat in a van with family members, Jacinto walked up to her and shot her twice in the head. He was later convicted of aggravated murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. It's so tragic how this cycle of violence has haunted their family for years. But now, let's look at another shocking case about a young woman whose life was tragically cut short over a Facebook argument. Asia Poole.
A deadly shooting at a Birmingham apartment complex.
A 21-year-old woman shot to death after a fight broke out last night at the Monarch Ridge Apartments.
And many people were outside when this happened, and some even live streamed the fight and the shooting.
Asia Poole was a 21-year-old mom with big dreams and a bright future. She was dedicated to building a better life for her 4-year-old daughter, even enrolling in nursing school to make it happen. Asia had recently been thinking about moving out of Alabama for a fresh start, especially after the devastating loss of her daughter's father, who was killed just a month earlier on July 26th. She was still grieving and trying to find her footing when tragedy struck again. On August 20th, 2024, just before 10 p.m., Birmingham police responded to a shooting at the Monarch Ridge Apartments. When they arrived, they found chaos and Asia, unresponsive, lying in the breezeway. She had suffered multiple bullet wounds several times and was tragically pronounced dead at the scene. The situation escalated from what began as an online spat between Asia and another woman named Janiyah Hendricks over a man. The two had agreed to meet at the parking lot of the apartment complex to settle things. Witnesses said Asia won the fight, but things quickly spiraled out of control. The other girl, angry and claiming she was tired, fled the scene, only to return to steal Asia's car with 2 others. As the group drove off, someone from Asia's side began firing at the car, which led to the occupants firing back. Amid the chaos, Asia tried to run for safety but was fatally hit. The heartbreaking moments were captured on a live stream by multiple people, including Asia. She is seen talking on camera before the rattling sounds of gunfire and phone drops. The gunfire continues for what seems like an eternity. Then you hear the heartbreaking cries of her brother and sister after discovering her lifeless body.
Hey, call police! My sister right here dead! Where's she, man? Maya! No!
Asia's friend was also hit in the incident and was taken to the hospital with a leg injury.
Witnesses are telling me today that hundreds of shots were fired here last night, and what we're seeing out here in the daylight certainly corroborates that. Take a look at just this one car, a bullet hole here in the trunk, another at the top of the trunk, one through the window, and then one on this other side next to the gas tank. The shooting happened after 2 women, one reportedly the victim, Asia Poole, got into a fist fight. And then right after that fist fight was broken up, that's when we heard the shots fired. Witnesses described what happened here last night as something like World War III. This Monarch Ridge apartment building bears the scars of what played out here Tuesday night. Hundreds of bullets went through the walls and windows into apartments, shattered car windows, and flattened tires. In the hail of gunfire, 21-year-old Asia Poole was shot and killed.
We're talking about a 22-year-old that has lost her life, cannot raise a kid anymore, has left a 4-year-old to be fatherless and motherless.
Her neighbors didn't want us to show their faces or use their names in fear of retaliation.
Residents and witnesses described the incident as something out of a movie, saying that it felt pre-planned. There were multiple masked armed with assault-type rifles and guns equipped with Glock switches. But what's even more terrifying, the gunman had reportedly blocked off the entire complex so no one could get in or out. One neighbor described it like this: there were 4 or 5 of them shooting from different angles. If you were out here last night, they had the whole section blocked off. There was no way to escape. You just had to get down and hope for the best. Police revealed that a staggering 168 rounds were fired during the chaos. They believe that after the shooting started, more people who weren't originally involved joined in, with Asia being hit at least twice.
It is alarming that the amount of people that were present and did not intervene in the fight to, keep the situation from happening. It is sad.
Witnesses say if anyone had intervened, they'd be dead as well.
A lot of people are afraid to get out and talk. A lot of people are afraid to get involved and or etc. because they are afraid of the youth.
The whole ordeal left the community on edge. People were too scared to leave their homes, and kids even skipped school out of fear of retaliation. Shortly after, Asia's stolen car was found abandoned in the parking lot of J Wings on Centerpoint Parkway. And just 2 days later, Birmingham police announced they had arrested several suspects in connection with the tragic shooting.
I asked police what started the fight and shooting that killed Asia Poole, and they did not answer. But they did make it clear that these arrests may not be the last.
Janiyah Hendricks, her brother Justin Hendricks, and Taylor McLeod are all facing charges for Tuesday's shooting at Monarch Ridge Apartments in East Birmingham.
We do believe there were more shooting than just these 2. This is an ongoing investigation, so we'll just see where that leads us.
The 2 men are charged with murder for the death of 21-year-old Asia Poole. They are also facing attempted murder charges for shooting this man, Demarion Rankins, in the leg during the incident where police say 168 shots were fired.
Janiyah Hendricks was charged with first-degree auto theft, while her brother Justin Hendricks, along with Akariah Woods and Taylor McLeod, faced charges of murder and attempted murder for injuring Asia's friend, a 17-year-old boy, believed to be the first one to open fire after Janiyah drove off in Asia's car, was also charged with her murder. The 3 suspects, Justin, Akariah, and Taylor, were denied bail after the judge ruled they were too dangerous to be released. Their lawyers argued that they fired in self-defense, claiming one of Asia's family members fired first, and the chaos that followed was a reaction, not an attack. But the judge didn't buy it, pointing out that all 3 were already out on bond for other crimes. The judge stated, "The community has an absolute right to feel and be safe in their homes." But what makes this case even more tragic is the family's history of tragedy. Janiyah and Justin's father, also named Justin Hendricks, was gunned down in a similar way just a year before, on September 11th, 2022. That Sunday, the 35-year-old was leaving church and stopping at an ATM when he was ambushed in a hail of bullets. And now, with 2 of his kids facing murder charges, it feels like the cycle of violence just won't end for this family. But this next case is even more gut-wrenching.
All these people outside. Just before midnight, the booming sound of fireworks was muted by fire.
What y'all doing, Facebook?
A Fort Worth makeup artist was among the victims killed in 2 separate in the city on the 4th of July, the woman's fiancé said in an interview with the Star-Telegram on Friday.
But the sounds of joy and laughter were quickly silenced by and chaos when violence erupted at a block party on Castleman Street.
When a beautiful 39-year-old entrepreneur was dead during her 4th of July holiday celebrations, the community was shocked. But who did it? And why did they pull that trigger? Well, those were the big questions that everyone wanted answering. Tasha Hyman was an amazing 39-year-old woman, known for her impeccable attention to detail and precision when it came to her craft. She had a natural talent for enhancing people's features and bringing out their inner glow. Her salon, Slay by Shay, quickly became the go-to spot for anyone looking for a transformation or just a confidence boost. Tasha's warm and welcoming personality made her clients feel like they were catching up with an old friend every time they sat in her chair. That's exactly why she had amassed over 1,000 clients that regularly came to her. She took the time to listen to their concerns and preferences, ensuring that each client left feeling satisfied and beautiful. Her dedication to her work was evident in the long hours she put in at the salon, always striving to deliver top-notch results. Tasha's passion for her work and her genuine care for her clients set her apart in the industry, and her legacy as a talented and beloved makeup artist will live on in the hearts of those she touched. It was these qualities, as well as her get-up-and-go attitude and entrepreneurship tendencies, that made her one of the most loved members of the community.
I'm happy to see another day. 39 trips around the moon. I'm blessed. I got a house. I got a car. My bills are paid. I'm financially stable. I can do what I want to do. I got food in my refrigerator. I have my health and strength. And that's all I can be grateful for God giving me as my birthday gift. That's all I want.
Most importantly, Tasha was a devoted mother to her only child, her son. Tasha often shared photos and heartfelt captions about the special bond she shared with her son, showcasing their fun adventures, inside jokes, and shared interests. From attending his soccer games and school events to cooking together in the kitchen, their relationship was built on love, trust, and understanding. Tasha made sure to prioritize quality time with her son, creating lasting memories that they both cherished. Their close relationship was a source of strength and joy for both of them, and Tasha took great pride in being a supportive and loving mother.
What are you doing? Okay, come on.
Tasha's had an amazing and supportive bunch of people around her. Her fiancé, Tommy Howard, was not only her partner in life, but also her biggest supporter in her business ventures. Her friends and family were always there for her, cheering her on through every high and low. With their unwavering love and support, she felt like she could conquer the world. The thought of marrying Tommy filled her heart with joy and anticipation, knowing that their future together was bright and full of endless possibilities. Tasha truly felt like she was living her best life and was grateful for every moment of happiness that came her way. Howard described Hyman as the sweetest person on this earth and one of the best makeup artists in the city, saying she was loved by her over 1,000 clients throughout Fort Worth. Life was not always easy for Tasha, though. There were many people who were jealous of her looks and her success and would often try to pull her down. They would make rude, insulting, and hurtful comments on her social media posts and do their best to try to upset her and make her feel not worthy. And while Tasha was sometimes pushed to respond, she worked on herself and did manage to get that under control, reframing the hurtful comments as other people being envious of her and her success. She turned her life around and continued to develop and grow, going from strength to strength. One 4th of July evening, Tasha and Tommy headed outside to watch the firework display and spend time with their family and friends. The atmosphere was electric, with families laughing and children playing, all enveloped in a sense of patriotic fervor. Little did Tasha and Tommy know that a senseless and deadly act of violence would shatter the peace and joy of the evening. The 4th of July, a day meant for celebration and unity, would turn into a night of sorrow and tragedy. On the evening of July 4th, as the skies lit up with fireworks to celebrate Independence Day, chaos erupted on the block of Castleman Street in Fort Worth. The Fort Worth Police Department received multiple frantic calls reporting a shooting and a large, unruly crowd. Officers rushed to the scene and were met with a scene of pandemonium, bodies lying on the ground, screams filling the air, and a sense of fear and confusion hanging thick in the night air. The police quickly sprang into action, attempting to disperse the crowd and provide aid to the wounded. It was a night that would forever be remembered in the neighborhood for the tragedy that had unfolded. It was fun. It started off great, Everybody was coming out, cooking out in their front yard, said Lisbeth, a neighbor. They started shooting, and everything just went downhill from there. The night started off like any other celebratory night. She went live on social media to document the growing number of attendees as the small gathering quickly escalated into a crowd of 200 to 300 people spanning multiple blocks. Fort Worth police were already on the scene, keeping an eye on the celebrations and making sure that things didn't turn nasty. Her live video was viewed by a lot of people, all of whom liked it and left comments in awe at how busy it was on the usually quiet neighborhood street. Still, it wasn't enough to damp Tasha's spirits, and as she grabbed herself and Tommy some more drinks, she vowed to just carry on partying with her family and mind her own business.
Fort Worth police was already monitoring the area. They say 200 to 300 people took over the block.
However, the situation took a turn for the worse when individuals began firing fireworks at nearby homes and drivers started performing dangerous stunts in the intersection. The fun night was dangerously close to getting out of hand. Tasha tried to stay away from all of the crowds, though, and just enjoyed her evening with her family and friends. Several times over the course of the night, she posted live videos on Facebook of her enjoying the party and hanging out with family and friends. Despite the potential for things to go wrong, Tasha, Tommy, and her family were still having a great evening, but it wasn't going to stay that way. The night started to grow later and later, and this is when tragedy struck. According to Howard, it appeared that nearby residents got tired of the noise from the cars, and someone started Everybody outside began running and ducking, he said. Hyman had gone into his mother's house to use the bathroom and had just come outside when the gunfire began, and she was shot, Howard said. One of the neighbors had been increasingly frustrated by the continuous loud noise coming from the rowdy party outside. Their patience wore thin as the music boomed into the late hours of the night and the fireworks were flashing and crashing into the houses, drowning out the usual peaceful serenity of the neighborhood. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, they had stormed out of their home, wielding a gun, and started firing into the crowded street full of people. The attacker was wildly firing haphazardly into the panicked crowd of partygoers. The sound of screams and cries filled the air as people scattered in fear, trying to seek cover from the terrifying commotion.
I'm trying to show y'all all these people outside. Just before midnight, the booming sound of fireworks was muted by fire.
What y'all doing?
But the sounds of joy and laughter were quickly silenced by and chaos when violence erupted at a block party on Castleman Street.
Everyone ducked for cover or ran to safety. Everyone except Tasha, who was inside the house in the bathroom. She had not heard the commotion outside, and she was unaware of the danger that people were in. She finished in the bathroom, fixed her makeup, and then headed back towards the door, but when she came out and went back outside, she left herself wide open to what was about to happen to her.
They originally got the call about the shooting at about 11:30 last night for a southeast Fort Worth neighborhood. Now, when officers arrived to Castleman Street, which is near Highway 287, they found multiple victims shot. EMS ended up taking them to the hospital where at least one died.
As Tasha and Tommy were partying with everyone else in the neighborhood, there was the sound of People were slow to react, though, thinking that the banging noise was part of the fireworks display. They could never in a million years have imagined that they were under attack by someone with a gun. The screams were deafening, and people ran around in panic, not sure where to go or where the were coming from. It was like a living nightmare.
A resident in the area says a block party was happening there when the gunfire erupted. Some thought it was just fireworks until they saw those who were shot.
Injured, like right there in the yard, like just like this, right here in the street. Injured, not moving. One of them barely moving. We were just trying to enjoy the Fourth. You know, it's supposed to be a good.
Who was the victim of the tragic though? Well, it turned out to be none other than Tasha. She had been minding her own business, having a good time, when she was struck by not one, but multiple bullets. Having just come out of the house, she was still unsure what all the panic was for. She kept level-headed and tried to ask people why they were running, but it was too late. It hit her and she fell to the ground. She was killed instantly, and there was nothing that the emergency services could do to bring her back. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Sadly, she was not the only victim of the evening, with one other person being killed and 2 injured, though they were expected to live to tell the tale. According to the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office, a man who was taken to a hospital from the Castleman Street scene also died of a wound. Marcus Martin Jr. of San Diego, California, was pronounced dead early Friday at Texas Health Harris Methodist from a wound to the back. The medical examiner's website was recently updated to give Martin's age as 19. His death was ruled a homicide. At least 2 additional victims from the East Fort Worth neighborhood were taken to hospitals and were expected to survive, according to police. The neighborhood had held 4th of July parties for years. It was a local tradition, and usually it was a night of good fun and good humor, and there were never any problems. So what was it about that night that was different? Why had so many people turned up to the party, and what had really driven the mysterious neighbor to start shooting at the unsuspecting partygoers? Those were questions for another time. Right then, the community had to process what had happened and the devastating effect of Tasha's death. Her fiancé Tommy was particularly broken by what had happened to Tasha. In an interview with the Star-Telegram, he called Tasha his savior, describing her as the sweetest person on this earth and a cheerful and beautiful soul, loved by many. In a heartbreaking revelation, he explained how Tasha had been there for him when his previous wife had passed away from cancer 4 years before. She had offered him support and a shoulder to cry on when he needed it the most. Everybody loved her, he said. She was cheerful. She was just a good spirit. She actually was my savior. The community was equally shocked by Tasha's death. Tributes poured in for one of the biggest and most well-loved characters in the community. It was clear that Tasha's death had left an instant and painful hole. One of the most moving posts was by a representative of Slay by Shay, Tasha's beauty company, who posted, "It is with a heavy heart that we announce the death of our beloved owner, Latasha. In light of this profound loss, we will be temporarily closed as we mourn and support our family during this difficult time. We kindly ask that you keep Latasha's family in your prayers." Tasha's cousin, Pastor Felton Jenkins, was particularly hit by what had happened. He was an advocate for gun control in the community, and he often spoke out about the dangers of owning and using firearms. He often fought against gun violence, advocating for peace and love. So when he found out what had happened to Tasha, Felton was heartbroken. Her cousin, Pastor Felton Jenkins, found out in the morning about her death. "She is sweet. She is my angel," said Jenkins. "Every time we see each other, it's a hug, it's a kiss, it's a smile, dance, you name it. We are going to cheer each other up. She was loved by everybody." He spends every day as a community leader fighting against gun violence, but this time he said the pain is personal.
Every time we see each other, it's a hug, it's a kiss, it's a smile, it's a small dance, you name it. We gonna cheer each other up. She was loved by everybody. She was loved by everybody.
But who would do such a thing? Who would start firing their gun into the crowd just because their 4th of July celebrations were too loud? It seemed like a very extreme move to do something like that. Well, police started looking into who might have pulled the trigger, but the truth was that it wasn't going to be an easy task. No one saw anyone with a gun, and no one had any clues that might point police in the right direction.
At this point, there are multiple suspects, but no one is in custody.
Police even canvassed the area, asking for the shooter to give themselves up and come forward to the authorities. They said that they would go easier on them if they admitted to their guilt and handed themselves in. But still, no one came forward to admit it was them who had opened fire. The police chief expressed their frustration at the lack of cooperation from witnesses. The incident had left many shaken and fearful, with some reconsidering their plans for future celebrations in light of the danger that now loomed over them. As days passed without any leads, tensions in the neighborhood grew, with rumors and speculation swirling about who the culprit could be. The police were determined to bring justice and peace back to the community, but with no tangible evidence to work with, the search for the shooter seemed to be at a standstill. The community remained on edge, waiting for answers, and hoping that the perpetrator would eventually be brought to justice.
They are cowards.
Jenkins and several community leaders want those who know something to come forward.
Come on, Fort Worth.
The police had exhausted all leads and avenues of inquiry in their pursuit of the elusive shooter responsible for Tasha's tragic death. Despite their best efforts, the trail had gone cold, and the perpetrator remained at large. This sense of frustration and hopelessness weighed heavily on Tasha's loved ones, who were left with more questions than answers. The uncertainty surrounding her murder only served to deepen their grief and prolong their pain. The community, too, was rocked by the senseless violence that had claimed the life of such a beloved and irreplaceable member. Tasha's absence left a void that could never be filled, leaving those who knew her to grapple with feelings of loss and injustice. As the days turned into weeks, the possibility of finding closure seemed to grow more distant, leaving everyone to wonder if justice would ever be served for Tasha. So now it's over to you. What did you think of this tragic story? Why do you think the neighbors started shooting? And how would you have felt if your 4th of July celebrations suddenly turned to tragedy? As always, we love to hear from you, so be sure to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below. Please give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you next time.